Okay, here we are. It's 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you're joining us in the world. My name is Patrick Weinert. I'm really happy to have you here with me for this live webinar. And this is Growing Your Wealth with Safe Investments. I also call it the Safe Investing Masterclass. But if anybody has any difficulty hearing me, just mention something in the comments or let me know by private message. I'm going to continue to press forward with this based on our timeline. This should only last maybe about 45 minutes at most. And what we'll do is I'll take most questions towards the end if we have any. But without any further delay, we'll get into this. So this Safe Investing Masterclass is designed for you. It's designed to help you to determine a good strategy to invest your money in these very volatile times, right? We have a very volatile stock market. We have very volatile investments in other areas too, such as digital currency and real estate. There's a lot of fear right now, and this is a method that we can use in order to help us to invest in a safer way, to give us greater peace of mind. So the first thing I'm going to do is discuss the disclaimer, and that is that the views presented here, I served in the military for a number of years, but the views that are presented here are my views, and they don't necessarily reflect the views of the United States Marine Corps, the Department of Defense, any governmental agency. These are my opinions. So I may reference my career in the past, but this does not in any way mean that the Marine Corps or any part of the government endorses what I say. The other thing too is that I am a registered investment advisor in Washington, D.C. So I'm licensed as an investment advisor in the District of Columbia. Now that doesn't necessarily mean that Washington, D.C. Recommends that you listen to me or take my advice. These are my opinions. They're just saying that I am legally allowed to give advice. And so I want to make sure that's clear as well. Now, this isn't an endorsement from them, but it is saying that these are my opinions. So let's talk a little bit about this discussion and this conversation overall, right? So let's talk about the overview here. The overview is the introduction. We want to talk a little bit about myself and about my background, but then we want to really dive into the strategies. What are ways that you can earn a good return and do it in a safe way? And then we're going to transition into a way ahead for you, right? So the meat of this discussion is strategies for you. But first we want to talk a little bit about some of the things that, are in my background, just to give you a little bit of an update. So let me talk to you a little bit about myself. I'm a retired Marine Corps Lieutenant Colonel. I spent 20 years as a helicopter pilot and as the service budget manager for the Marine Corps. That was the last tour that I did. During my time in the Marines, I spent a lot of time helping Marines with their personal finances. And at a certain point, I had built enough credibility that they asked me to manage the Marine Corps' budget, which is what I did during the last few years that I was in the service. I essentially shepherded a process that allocated money for the service. Now, why is that important? I came out of this with not just a good understanding of budgeting, but also a good understanding of ways in which I can help service members in particularly, but then also people individually with their own personal budgets and also with organizational budgets. So if you have a small business, and I had a lot of expertise that I took from this work, and I wanted to help others with that. And my primary goal has been to help service members, young working professionals, really people of all backgrounds who want to achieve financial independence to reach their financial goals. Now, I realize that to a certain degree, financial advising is a very unique situation, right? So I did some advising during my career, and I have unique experience myself. During the time that I was either in the service or here in my personal business, which is called the Money Mission, I provided financial counseling to over 700 clients and businesses. I've done numerous live seminars. I've published over 5 books on the topic, like I mentioned before, I was the service budget manager. So I have some experience with this, and I want you to know that. And to further give you some idea of what I've been capable of, I had a client of mine who agreed to let me talk a little bit about his situation. So he's worked with me now for 5 years, and during this time, we were able to grow his investments. Now, his investments were basically much lower when we started out. So this slide shows you that we started in November of 2017, and at that time he had about $52,000, a little bit more than $52,000 in investments. Now again, he said it's all right if I shared this with you. Obviously, I've scrubbed all this for personal information. You don't know anything about him personally, but we started with $52,000 roughly. And then by the time we got to the middle of this year, right, July 1st, he had saved and invested. Now he earned between $30,000 and $35,000 per year. But by the middle of this year, he had amassed a total net worth of about $224,000. So needless to say, he did very well. Now he saved some, so some of this is savings, but a lot of this is also returns he got from smart investing in the market. That's a 230% return overall, which is pretty good for that period of time. So I want you to be able to see that not only am I telling you I have some experience with this, but here is real life example of success that my clients have experienced, right, through my advising them. And to go into a little bit more detail here, I'll even show you some of the testimonials that I have from some of my clients, right? Sean says that I'm a top-notch professional and he wouldn't want to work with anyone else. One of my clients, Todd, says that I have a wealth of knowledge. He learns a lot from me through our monthly phone calls, and that he feels he is well on his way to achieving his goal of becoming financially independent. Right? So these are more testimonials, just trying to give you a little bit more of an illustration of what I can do and what I've helped others be able to do. What we're going to do, though, this evening is focus on you individually. What have been the obstacles that are keeping you from achieving your financial success? Now, here are some very common obstacles that I hear or issues that I hear people talk about. And these, are in no particular order, but I will say that they're very prevalent, right? They happen a lot. I hear these a lot. I don't have the time to commit to learning this. I lack the discipline to really follow through on commitments. Every time I try to make progress, some emergency occurs, setting me back financially. And, or even worse, I feel like I can never make progress because I can't get myself to actually save money. Does any of this sound like this might be something you have a problem with? And if it is, you don't necessarily need to acknowledge publicly, but just acknowledge it to yourself. Do any of these sound like obstacles that you face? Now, when it comes to these obstacles, I want to reframe this with you today in a way that's positive. And when we talk about reframing, we're talking about taking our obstacles, our objections, our problems, and looking at them from a different perspective. Right? You could say, hey, I don't have the time to commit to learning this. I feel like I'm being pulled in multiple directions with family life, with my career, with my work, and I just don't have the time for this. And that's understandable. But all I ask is that you commit, less than an hour of your time today with me in learning some strategies that you can implement, really you can use for your benefit. You might also feel like you lack the discipline to really follow through on commitments. Well, let's pursue a strategy that doesn't require a lot of discipline to achieve, right? If we can do something that takes a very little bit of time, essentially we can set it and forget it, then you won't need a lot of discipline to push through the hard times, right? You can just get it set up and then it will take care of itself. Another objection might be that every time you try to make progress, an emergency occurs and it sets you back financially. Well, let's pursue a strategy where we make enough money to plan for those emergencies, where we have something in place that we can fall back on if it becomes an issue. I want you to make a commitment with me today. I want you to watch this webinar with me, participate, and then take action that I'm going to give you, right? I'm going to make some recommendations and just take at least one action in one of these. Get some momentum going in the right direction. If you give me that commitment, I can commit that you will make money. That I will commit to you. Now, here we're going to talk a little bit about the real meat of what we're going to present today, and that is the strategies. This is the actual recommendations that I'm going to bring forward to you, right? I'm going to propose to you that you can use right now in order to get ahead with your financial planning. And these are safe strategies. It doesn't involve a lot of risk. It doesn't involve a lot of risk of your money. So the outcome is saving in a way that produces the results you want, right? We want to adopt the right strategies that fit what you need and take action now. So the goal here is let's adopt strategies to fit your goals, whatever those goals are. So think about what those goals are. You know, is it financial independence? Is it buying a new home? Is it maybe getting a car, going on a vacation, getting yourself so that you've fully funded your emergency fund? Your goal is unique to you, and I want to make sure that we're addressing your goal here and not some other goal that isn't applicable. So the first strategy we're going to discuss is very popular today, and you may hear it sometimes in the news, but it's very important because it's a very viable strategy. And these are the I-Series U.S. government savings bonds. Now, what are government savings bonds? Savings bonds essentially are bonds. Bonds are debt agreements, right? They're loans that are made from one individual to another or one organization to another. And U.S. government savings bonds are loans that are made from individuals to the U.S. government at a set amount and at a set interest rate. Now, savings bonds are different than treasury bonds, okay? Savings bonds are bonds that you purchase from the U.S. government and you hold them until you cash them in early or they mature. Right, mature is the end of the loan when you get all of the principal or the money that you loaned back and the interest. Now, a I-Series U.S. government savings bond is unique in that it has the full faith and credit of the U.S. government behind it, so it's risk-free unless the U.S. government were to default, but we don't believe that's going to happen. So we believe that these are risk-free investments, and you give them money. Essentially, you buy a bond, you give the federal government money in exchange for this bond, and currently these bonds are paying an interest rate of 9.62% on an annualized basis. So that means on an annual basis, if you put $1,000 in, you would get $96.20 at the end of the year back, in addition to the $1,000. These bonds have a maximum limit of $10,000 per year per person. So you can only put $10,000 in each year per person. If you're a couple, you could put in $20,000. If you have kids, you can put in $10,000 for each one of your dependents too. But it has to be in their name. And now here's the catch with this is that you can't access this for a year. So you cannot access the money for a year, but after a year you can. The only hitch is there is a penalty. And that is that if you access the money after a year, you have to pay the previous 3 months of interest as a penalty if you get access to it early. Okay, and by early, it's less than 5 years. Okay, so in essence, if you can't get access to the money for a year, and then after a year, you're able to get access to it, but you can only get access to it if you pay a 3-month interest penalty. So, for instance, say we got to the end of a year, and you have you had your $10,000 in there and you got $962 in interest, well, you'd have to pay the previous 3 months in interest. So let's say that was, $150 of that $962 in interest. You'd have to pay a penalty if you wanted to get access to this money right away. Now, if you hold it out to 5 years or longer, you don't have to pay any penalty at all. You can get the money, you get access to the money at any time, pay no penalty. The idea behind this is these are very safe investments, and if you want to use them, you want to be able to get some access to them, you could ladder them like CDs. So you could put $1,000 in each month, and then in a year $1,000 will become available to you. You may, if you have this as an emergency fund, or if you want to have access to it for other types of investing in the future, you may not necessarily need access to it all at the same time. And as a consequence, you can ladder them, and that will enable you to get access to them at an incremental level. So the challenge that I have for you is, if this sounds like something you'd be interested in doing, go set up an account with Treasury Direct at treasurydirect.gov and put some money into iBonds. So this wouldn't take you very much time, but if you set it up, you'd be able to earn a risk-free interest rate, which will offset the inflation rate, which is close to 9% right now. Keep your purchasing power up, and you'd be able to use it not just as an emergency fund, but also as a way to save in a safe way. Okay, another strategy is getting a certificate of deposit. Now, most CDs don't pay a very high interest rate. However, Navy Federal Credit Union does offer what they call an Easy Start Program CD, which gives a 3% annual percentage yield. The actual interest rate is slightly less than 3%, but they say at over a year, you would earn 3%. Now, if you put the money in for a year, you can't obviously get access for that year, but over the course of the year, you would earn that 3%, and then you get to get access at the end of the year. So if you put $3,000 in, you would earn an additional $90 by the end of the year. Now, this isn't a huge return, but it is safe. And this is another way that you would be able to earn additional interest in a safe way if you, say, maxed out the iBonds, or if you didn't want to put money in them. This is another way to do that. So another action you could do is to open an account with Navy Federal Credit Union and set up a CD, put $3,000 in there, and earn 3% interest over the next year. Now, there are other strategies that we can use too. So let's say that you maxed out your iBond contribution and you maxed out your CD with Navy Federal Credit Union. You can also put money in a high yield savings account. And there are different ways that you can do this. One is through, various online banks. So for instance, you've got a ton of them to choose from. You got Capital One, VO, Ally, Synchrony. Many of these have accounts you can set up and you can put the money in. It's very liquid. Now, at the moment, some of these are paying 1.4, as high as 1.5% interest annually, or as an annual percentage return, or an APR. And you can get these, and you can put, as much money in these as you want to, right? They're FDIC insured, so there's no limitation on the total that you can put in, except that it is insured up to a certain amount. Now, there are some limitations on what you can withdraw. So I know I bank with Synchrony, and again, this isn't an endorsement that you bank with them, but I'm just using it as an example. I bank with them, and they limit the number of withdrawals you can make to 6 per month. But if you are using this primarily as either an emergency fund or as a way to save money to invest in the future, you probably aren't going to need to make 6 withdrawals a month. And so that isn't necessarily a big restriction on you. There are other banks, too, that offer higher yields, right? DCU offers a 6% yield, T-Mobile anywhere from 1 to 4%, and HM Bradley offers 3% as well. Now, there are other limitations that some of these other banks have, and you want to make sure you're clear on what those are before you deposit money with them. For instance, some of them require that you do some of your income direct deposited into their savings account in order to get that return. And you may not necessarily want to do that. So make sure you read the fine print, you get clear on what is required for you to net these higher interest rates. But another strategy for you, if you've maxed out some of these others, or if you prefer to have access to this money at all time, is to open a high yield savings account at one of these online banks and to deposit some of your cash there. Now, I'm also going to talk about precious metals very briefly, because precious metals do play an important role in safe investing. Now, gold and silver are seen as universal safe havens. And what they are is they are authentic money. They're authentic cash. The reason why is because they have real value. And in 5,000 years of history, they've never been worthless. So they're seen as a safe haven in the sense that they'll never be worthless. whereas paper currencies could potentially become worthless, or stock in a particular company, if the company goes bankrupt, could become worthless. Gold and silver will never be worthless. And while their prices may fluctuate in the short term, they are very good hedges against the blight of inflation. And I know we've been experiencing a lot of inflation lately over the last year to year and a half. And I know that gold prices have been volatile, but they are still a good hedge, and I do recommend owning some. Now, you can own them either physically, as a physical possession, right? You take possession of them and maybe put them in a safety deposit box in the bank or in a safe in your home. And you can also buy ETFs. ETFs are trusts which hold the metal, and you just buy a share of that trust. So you don't actually have to take physical possession. And in order to do that, it's much easier. So you could do it through a brokerage, an online brokerage account, or through your own account that you have, depending on where you invest. So if you want to include this in your strategy for safe investing, you can set up a brokerage account and invest in one or two of these ETFs. Very simple to do, doesn't take a lot of time. Now, I also want to bring up that, here I'm going to illustrate for you that in real terms, the stock market tends to bottom and enable a great buying opportunity every several decades in prices, in gold prices. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight, I'm kind of pointing on the slide right now. Right here you see this is the Dow, right? The Dow Jones Industrial Average priced in gold, okay? And you can see going back over 100 years that priced in gold right up here is during the Roaring 20s. We can see that it was very expensive, right? So it was very expensive priced in gold. But if we come into the Great Depression, we can see that you could buy a share of the Dow for between 1 and 2 ounces of gold. Whereas previously it had been up around 20 ounces, right? Much more expensive. And if you'd gone into the mid-1960s, you can see that it cost somewhere around 25 ounces of gold to buy a share of the Dow. And then in 1980, it bottomed at 1 ounce of gold. And the peak hit again in the 2000s, where we were up around 45 ounces. And the last time it hit a trough was in 2011. This is back, if everyone remembers, where the Dow was around 10,000 and gold, I think, hit like 2,000 or close to 2,000. But that ratio was like around 10 or 6, 6 to 10 here around 2011. You see it's kind of come back up. But we anticipate, and many financial experts anticipate, that ratio eventually will return to 1. And so having some gold in your portfolio can be very good for the future, especially the future if we see stock prices decline in real terms, right, priced in gold. So let's talk a little bit about a potential strategy you could put together here to save in a safe way and get a decent return. Let's say that you put 10,000 or 20,000 of your savings into I-bonds, 3,000 into a CD, and then maybe another 2,000 into a high yield savings account. And then, who knows, maybe even you put another $1,000 into precious metals just as an alternate. We could include that or not include it. That means that on average, a $15,000 investment would yield about a 7.3% return over a year, and a $25,000 investment would yield about an 8.3% return. Now, if we're at 8.3%, we will almost be keeping up with inflation at that point, right? So you could be earning $2,000 in interest in 1 year with this strategy and still have access to at least 50% of your money at all times, right? If we're laddering those bonds, if we're keeping some of our money in a high yield savings account where we have access to it, you could be essentially earning a sizable amount of interest, and at the same time, you'd still have access to most of your money, which would be good because you'd be doubling not just as an investment, but also as an emergency fund. Now, you can take this new knowledge, take this strategy, take this webinar, come back, look at it again, and go make money right now. The challenge, though, for many of us, myself included, is when are you going to do this, right? There are 3 critically important elements to financial success. They're knowledge, discipline, an emotional investment. Now, what do I mean by emotional investment? And that is, you need to have a motivation for doing this, right? I can give you all of the great tips and tricks and strategies, but if you yourself aren't motivated enough to take action, then you're probably not going to do anything. And in order to have some emotional investment, you need to make a commitment to yourself, to those around you who depend on you to do this. And I want to help you with that today. If I offered you an opportunity, to 10 or 20x an investment with very little time or effort on your part, would that be of interest to you? Right? If we could get past those objections. Remember those objections we talked about before? I don't know if I have the time to learn this stuff. You don't know if I'll follow through. Let's say we make a commitment. Hey, we're going to spend a little bit of time. We're going to designate a time to do it, and we're going to do it. And then we won't have to do it anymore. We don't have to continue working at it. The money will be invested. It will grow for us. Does that sound like something that would be of interest to you? I want to make an offer to you. If you invest 1 hour of your time for a guaranteed $2,000 value, what would that be worth to you? Like if we took an hour, maybe even less than an hour, and we went through the process of getting your account set up, of moving your money over, of getting all the money set up in a way that you got $2,000, what would that be worth to you? I will work with you in a class similar to this, right? It'll be a webinar type class, except you'll be able to ask questions and I'll respond and walk you through this process tailored to your situation that will maximize your returns on safe investments, and we'll do this in an hour. We'll probably even be able to do it in under an hour. To be honest with you, this is probably worth $1,500. I mean, right, if you get $2,000 in exchange for $1,500, right, it's almost like you're getting paid $500 an hour. A great deal would be for me to offer this to you for $500, right? If I said, hey, you know what, $500, I will take care of all this for you, and then you don't have to worry about it anymore. It's like a free $1,500 you're getting. But the truth is, I'm not even going to ask you for that. If you take action now, I'll offer help to you on this for only $197, right? For not even $200. What we'll do is we will get in a class very similar to this. I will walk you through a process where we get everything set up. Questions are answered, everything's streamlined. There's no stone left unturned, there's no frustration. We get your money invested, we get it set up, it's safe. And we are going to earn you over the course of a year $2,000. Now, if you do this, not only are you going to make money, but I'm going to throw some additional bonuses in here for you too. And I'm going to give you these 4 free bonuses. If you make the decision to do this right now, and you make a small emotional commitment, right? $197 commitment. I'm going to give you 1 month free access to my paid membership program, and that's valued at over $170. You're going to have access to all my resources, to all the videos that I normally give exclusively to those that are clients of mine, right? All the video resources, all the digital resources, including stuff that normally I only give to them. You're going to get access to all of this for 1 month for free. And you're going to be able to use it at any time to the max extent that you want. And that's at a value of over $170. I'm also going to give you digital copies of all my books. The Money Mission, Financial Abundance, and Tax Saving Strategies, right? So not only is it going to give you the basics of why I teach what I do, and it's going to explain it in great detail, but it's also going to give you what are the best investing strategies right now, and how do you devise a good tax saving strategy, right? Taxes are usually an afterthought, but I'm going to give this to you for free. How do you devise a good tax saving strategy so you're not doing catch up on TurboTax or whatever software you're using at the end of the year? Now, if you act now, I'm going to give you $210 worth of bonuses that I just listed here for free. And if you aren't totally satisfied with the work that we do together in the webinar, I'll refund your $197, no questions asked. Not only that, though, I'll let you keep the bonuses for free, right? So now this value or this proposition that I'm doing right now, I am going to make good with you for the next 72 hours. So, the current webinar participants that are watching this, I'm going to make this good for you for the next 72 hours. And by that I'm saying, if you do that right now, if you take action right now, or if you make the decision to make it right now, right, this is a little bit of a motivation for you to do this, then I am going to help you by giving you all these free bonuses. And I'm going to give you the guarantee. If you're not satisfied, you're not totally satisfied and blown away by the value, I'll give you all your money back, and you get to keep the bonuses for free. Now, how do you take me up on this offer? Here's the link to sign up for this Safe Investing webinar. And like I said, if you do it right now, I'm going to throw in these these 4 bonuses for you, including 3 free digital copies of my books, which you can buy on Amazon right now, but I'm going to give them to you for free. I'm also going to post a link to this below. So, if you're watching the webinar and you don't know how to copy and paste this in, I'll post a link below as well in order for you to take advantage of this right now. So, look, I am excited for you. I'm excited for your financial future, but I want you to get some momentum going. Even if you don't take me up on this offer, I want you to take advantage of the strategies that I went through in this Safe Investing Masterclass. I want you to use them, because if you use them, you're going to get some momentum, you're going to get some safe investing done, you're going to get some money made over the course of the next year, and you're going to do it in a very risk-free way. And not only that, you're going to be positioned well for the future. I predict that we're going to see the stock market come down more, right? It's July 14th right now of 2022. I anticipate the stock market is going to continue to fall. And in the future, if you have money saved, if you have money invested in this way, in this safe way, you're going to have a lot more dry powder to use when we're able to buy stocks and mutual funds at fire sale prices, much lower than they are now. And you're going to be able to achieve your financial goals in a much faster way. So let's talk about kind of what we covered. We talked a little bit about strategies. We talked about my background. We also talked about this offer that I have for you. I want you to take advantage of this offer, this way ahead. Like I said, I give you a full money back guarantee. If you aren't blown away by the value, not only am I going to refund your money, you get to keep the bonuses for free, no questions asked, no hard feelings. Also, if you would like to continue to follow up with me, feel free to subscribe to my weekly email newsletter. You can subscribe here at the website. Just sign up. And if you're active duty military, you can get a copy of my free saving and investing guide for military and veterans at the second link. These are both, again, they're both free. The weekly newsletter I send out just to keep you updated on what's going on in the world of finance. And that is the conclusion of this presentation. It's really been a pleasure to have all of you here with me.